the first thing I'll say is I don't really believe in coincidences. It may seem like, what you're up to is, and something happens, it's a coincidence, but I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. But I remember doing my first video, and I remember having that thing called imposter syndrome kick in, where I was like, who the heck wants to see me? No one's going to want to hear what I have to say. Like, what value do I bring to anybody? We're not even at the last day yet. We've got one more day in March, and I've already passed 1 million views for the quarter, right? Because a goal is just a dream until you write it down. So you got to get into the detail. If you have big enough goals, they're going to take you more than 5 years to achieve them. Don't let your pride or ego get in the way. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Because the truth is, there are plenty of people out there that are willing to help you, that are willing to take time out of their day to invest in you if you're willing to ask. And the worst thing that they could say is no.
Hello and welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today on Reality Practice Quantum Creations, where I interview guests who have experienced a quantum explosion in their personal and professional evolution and have rewritten their very own version of reality. They share the lessons they learned along the way, all in a quick 15-minute interview. And today's guest is Jordan Mendoza, who's making his second appearance on the Reality Practice Network. Jordan's the founder and CEO of Blaze Your Own Trail Consulting. And in 2019, Jordan had a quantum shift in his reality, and he started creating content on LinkedIn, where he quickly realized the power of organic reach. By December, he had amassed over 20,000 followers using the strategy that he now teaches his clients. And since 2019, Jordan's content has reached over 4.3 million views, and his audience has expanded to over 64,000 followers. His goal now is to help over 1,000 entrepreneurs grow their brands to increase their impact and income each year. So without further delay, let's welcome my good friend Jordan Mendoza to the show. Hello, brother. How are you doing today?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Having a little cameraman problem, as you can see there, but no, doing well. Allergies are killing me today, but I took a couple of allergy medicines over the last couple of days, so...
Yeah, what's the weather looking like?
Other than my
where
voice
you're at?
beard, I'm doing great.
Yeah, what's the weather looking like? Is spring hitting where you're at? You're up in up in the East Coast, right?
I'm in Atlanta, yeah. So it's
Atlanta. Okay, that's right.
Yeah, the pollen is like covering our cars and the streets and everything right now. So.
Oh, I can only imagine. We're in Kansas City, and it was like 74 yesterday, which was beautiful, but now it's dropped back down today, and we go through that roller coaster for the next probably month or so until we hit the good summer stretch coming in. So, well, hey, thanks for joining us today. I wanted to have you on the show to introduce you again to the audience and to have you share how important it is to have a powerful vision and a dream, and what steps we need to take in order to create momentum to accomplish your goals. Because you've had amazing accomplishments in the last few years that very few people could achieve. I mean, it's mind-blowing at the amount of followers and how quickly you've exploded onto the scene. So Let's get right into it. Where were you before 2019, and what happened? What gave you this idea to hop on LinkedIn and try something new?
Yeah, well, for the first thing I'll say is I don't really believe in coincidences. It may seem like, what you're up to is, and something happens, it's a coincidence, but I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. So there was no coincidence that in February of 2019, hey, what's going on? I see Brian from Dad Up Podcast. What's going on, my friend? So in 2019, I got a goal for my company I was working for. I was working for a company called Gables Residential. I was a trainer, and I taught people sales, social media. I taught people internally for a property management company. And the goal they gave me for the year, Joey, was they wanted me to research social media platforms and find one that we could maybe create content on to get our associates more involved, right? Get them engaged. Where they could learn outside of our intranet for the company. Let's find a social platform. So I tried them all. I tried, Facebook. I tried Twitter, Snapchat. I wasn't really finding anything until I stumbled on LinkedIn in April, and I was like, you know what? This platform has changed. There's people that are now creating videos. They're putting out a lot more content. and I was like, the dynamic has really shifted. And I said, you know what? Let me do my first video. And I remember, Joey, and this is super important for everyone that's going to watch this or see the replay. But I remember doing my first video, and I remember having that thing called imposter syndrome kick in, where I was like, who the heck wants to see me? No one's going to want to hear what I have to say. Like, what value do I bring to anybody? Right? I think we've all been there. We've all experienced that. And then something was like, you know what, just post this video. And the most ironic thing about the video, again, because 2019 is not that long ago, it was a video asking my network if they knew anyone that was good at social media or social media marketing, which is coincidentally what my agency helps people with now.
Funny how that worked out, right?
Really funny. But I remember that first video, and I remember the feeling of shooting it so many times because I thought I was screwing up, and then it took me forever to post it, and then it got like 5 views, Joey, and all of them were me, you know. And now I remember, I think back to the first quarter of 2022. We're not even at the last day yet. We've got one more day in March, and I've already passed 1 million views for the quarter, right?
That's fantastic, right?
And I started with 5. But what Joey is trying to ask me is, like, how did you create this momentum? Well, I had to take action, right? That's the first tip, is you've got to take action. If you've got a goal or a dream, for one, you got to get pen and you got to get paper and you got to write that sucker down, right? Because a goal is just a dream until you write it down. Now that you've got it down, now you've got to actually expand on it. So you got to get into the details. It's like, if you want to build a cabin, like, what kind of wood do you want? You know, what's the doormat going to say when people walk up to that door? What's the yard in the back going to look like? Are you going to have a lake, a pond, right? Get clarity, get more clarity into that vision. And if it's not something that scares you, you better keep researching and figure out one that does. Because those are the ones that truly scare you, are the ones that, truthfully, you can have them come to pass if you're willing to take action, because action creates momentum, and then momentum creates consistency. That creates habits, and as we know, habits create results.
I love it. I love it. You know, you mentioned the idea of imposter syndrome. That's, you know, that self-doubt, that fear that we all have, especially when we start, for us that are content creators. You know, if you go back and look at my first videos, my first interviews, they were terrible. You know, I hate even watching them just because I laugh at myself. But, you know, I find myself, I get better and better each and every time. And it's just a gradual, it's like anything in life. We have to practice. We have to get better. We're going to suck the first 100 times we do anything. So therefore, instead of being afraid and allowing that self-doubt to control us, we just have to push it aside. We have to really jump in, you know, just jump off the cliff, really. And just not have to have that faith that there's a net below us, even though we can't see it. It might be so far down, but there's a net there. We just have to have that faith that it's going to be there. And I like what you said about setting goals. They have to be big enough to scare you, to terrify you. If you're not setting huge, unbelievable goals, then what's really going to push you? What's going to drive you? I love that idea.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, I know we've had plenty of conversations offline, and a piece of advice that I've given you, I did a reel yesterday, and it's called "Sell It Before You Build It." You know, you gotta the universe, right? You got to get it out in some version of it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but getting it out there is going to, for one, what's that called? We just talked about it. It's action. You've taken that first step, because if no one knows about it, does it actually exist?
I love what you just, like the idea that we're getting into this exactly right now, because you said there are no coincidences. And it's funny that I've got you on the show this week talking about this specific aspect, you know, setting goals, taking action. And literally, I just did that on Monday morning. Like, I reset everything. It's like, okay, I have specific, huge, unbelievable goals. And my wife and I are actually in a competition at the moment against each other.
That's
her
awesome.
Company versus my company. And we're both got a 90-day plan that we laid out to each of us generate $100,000. Whoever gets the most money over the next 90 days wins. We haven't decided what the outcome is going to be yet, but you said it just right. You know, I first had to set out the specific goals. You know, I've got 8 specific goals, with the number one goal being I'm going to make $100,000 with my company over the next 90 days. Then every other goal is how I'm going to do it. But
Yep.
that's just not, you know, just setting the goals is only a half of the battle, right? We have to have
Yep.
a plan of action at that point, and that's exactly what I did there. I've got my next to do, most important now, which is over the next 2 to 3 weeks. Then I've got over the next 90 days after that. It's kind of, how do you recommend people take action, but in a clear way? How do we get from A to Z without getting lost in between?
Yeah, I mean, you have to have systems and processes in place. So I love the fact that you've built that out and you've thought about, you're looking ahead. You're not just looking at tomorrow. You're looking 90 days out. You got to look further out. You got to have a bigger view of your life, and not just, in corporate America, when I was there for 15 years, one of the things that frustrated me the most is we were always so focused on the quarter. We're so focused on, we're just so focused that it's not enabling us to think bigger, because we're so focused on this like general small-minded kind of timeline. And so when you can think bigger and you have structure like you've got paper that you're written down. Maybe you've got, like, I love whiteboards. I don't know why, I enjoy them. I enjoy writing on them, writing notes. I enjoy building stuff there and then having it turn into a document. Like, it's so rewarding, right? Because it goes from scribble and writing, and then it comes to fruition into something. So whatever that system looks like for you, I know we're all wired differently. Some of us are note takers. Some of us need the audio visual. Some of us are more touchy feely. We need to kind of touch, and that's why I like the drawing thing. So just kind of figure out what works for you, and then just make sure that you do that consistently, because that's really what the goal is get something that you're used to doing every day. And then
Good advice. Yes, I like that.
if you need to find a time frame that works every day for you to do the thing every day, figure that out. But it's all about the small things.
I see. What I think something that we get caught up in is the idea you said, set reasonable time frames, but set long enough time frames, that the dream is big enough that, how far out should we be setting our goals? I was always told, dream big, plan your life, what's the 40s look like? What's my 50s look like? What's my 60s look like? And my first mentor was like, no, throw all that shit away. You only focus on the next 5 years. You can have a big plan, a grand vision for the future, but he's like, things change so much from year to year, let alone in 5 years. So he's like, do not ever plan anything massive past that 5-year mark, because your life's going to be completely and totally different in 5 years if you're executing your plan and taking action. So what would you recommend as far as a good time frame? How far out should people be planning? 1 to 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? What's worked best for you?
I mean, my feedback is, if you have big enough goals, they're going to take you more than 5 years to achieve them, right? Like, I can't think of a goal I have right now that I'll probably hit, before for that 5 years. They're just not, because they're so big. And right now, I'm like, how do I even get there? Does that make sense? So in those goals, but those are kind of like legacy. I'm talking legacy goals. Like, these are the goals that, I want to pass stuff down for generations. Those have to be further than 5 years, in my opinion. But it doesn't mean that I have to focus on those ones every day. I just know that they're there, and I know that my efforts are going to get me there if I'm following that path. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense a lot. Yeah,
always be out there, but yeah, I mean, if you want to say, hey, look, at 5 years or at 10 years, I think that should be up to you, because I think we're all different. Are we going to change? I just don't think that the BHAGs, the big, hairy, audacious goals, those legacy type goals, you can accomplish them typically in 5 years. Now, listen, if you've got a strategy to do that in 5 years, and I'm talking, one of mine is to build cabins on our land in Montana. We've got 120 acres. I've got 20 and me and four other brothers have 20 of those acres. Like, we want to build cabins, and I want to build a place for masterminds, and that's going to take a long time. It's going to take
Right.
time to strategize. Does that make sense? So
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's different for everyone, but I think it's so important that we have those things that we're trying to accomplish every single day. And then, yeah, you've got ones maybe that, hey, like this month I have a target to hit X amount of revenue. All right, now let me break that down. Like you said, all right, that means I got to have at least 20 sales calls in that month. Out of those 20, I've got to close at least XYZ to get there, right? So I
Right.
think it's important to have both.
I see. I see. What last question before we kind of wrap up. This has been a quick 15 minutes for sure. Um, how many goals would you recommend people have, like in order to stay focused? If we have too many, obviously we get taken in way too many directions and we lose our focus, I think. I've heard 3 is a maximum you should be working on. I've heard 5, I've heard 10. What's worked for you? Because you've had so much success. We want
Yeah,
to
I mean,
learn from you. What
yeah.
exactly have you done to do this? What do you recommend?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in celebrating, quick wins, having positive victories every day, right? And that could be, you had a tough conversation with somebody. That could be, you called this client that you were dreading calling. Maybe that could be your relationship is getting better with your spouse. Whatever those little small victories are, whether it's business or personal, I'm a big believer in searching for those, right? Because we all need that some sense of gratification for the work that we're doing. That could be helping somebody. That could be serving. It could be I got to help a client that was struggling. They didn't pay me for the time, but it moved the needle for them. That could be a quick victory. So I'm a
Hmm.
big believer in having like these items. So if you're thinking about goals, I would take your big ones. Obviously, are your big ones, your BHAGs. Those are your overarching goals that you are ultimately trying to get to those areas. If I'm thinking about more of like a short timeline perspective, I would look at a daily and weekly and monthly goals. Right. I think that can give you 3 different goal buckets. Right. Daily, I want to do this. At the end of the week, I want to have this. At the end of the month, I want to have this. And if you want to add a fourth, maybe add an annual goal. But yeah, getting outside of maybe 4 or 5, it can get a little messy. I think you can have micro goals that are kind of mixed into each of the buckets, but that's
Hmm.
also going to contribute to your small victories, which to me it's important to celebrate because as an entrepreneur, especially like now you're in competition with your wife, like you need to celebrate those small victories, right? Like you need
Right.
to be excited about stuff because it's a lonely game as an entrepreneur, and
Right.
it is a full contact sport a lot of the time. So anytime we can get a positive victory to help our mindset throughout the day, I think it's super important.
Oh, I love that. Uh, celebrating those small wins. It's something
Yep.
you hear often, but I think it's easy to forget about. The little wins. That's what builds that momentum. That's what
Yep.
gives us that fire behind us, the wind behind our sail, so to say.
Yep.
It's and you said it perfectly. You have that big overarching goal, but break it down into micro goals.
Yep.
I think that's such a key. That's so important for people to, that way you don't get overwhelmed, right? It's like you
Yeah.
can have 10 small goals that add up to reaching your one big goal,
Yep.
or one of your big goals. But yeah, I love that. Micro goals, celebrate those wins. That builds that momentum. That gets the wind behind your sails. And then just don't be afraid to jump off the cliff. Don't be afraid to jump without a net because the net's below you. We just have to have faith that it's there.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the last thing I would add to that is don't let your pride or ego get in the way. Don't be afraid to ask for help because the truth is there are plenty of people out there that are willing to help you, that are willing to take time out of their day to invest in you if you're willing to ask. And the worst thing that they could say is no. And if you
Right, right.
can't hear the word no, you might probably not cut out being an entrepreneur because I heard 200,000 no's before I turned 22. you know, so
It's yes, sales and entrepreneurship.
that's
It
right.
is
Yeah,
a
you got to be
constant
ready for it.
daily just punch to the gut, as far as you fail over and over and over, but you celebrate that win. And then you fail over and over and over, then you celebrate that win again. And I think it's just the sticking it out. It's really just having the courage to get up each and every day with the purpose, with the passion, knowing what you want to get done and that it will be done if you just keep following the path and allow that momentum to blow. Jordan, tell us real quick about Blaze Your Own Trail Consulting. How can people find you? How can they work with you?
Yep.
Let us
Yeah,
know.
we make it real easy. So on Instagram, if you can just go to my bio, you can click the link. It says book a call. It's going to ask you a few questions to give me some context on the area that you need the most help in. And then I like to meet everyone face to face. It's virtual, of course, through a Zoom call, and really see if we're a good fit to work together. Personally, I don't want to work with everyone, and you probably don't want to work with everyone either. I think it's
Right.
got to be a right fit. It's got to be an alignment, and I have to also know that I can help solve your problem. So that's really the first step, is just grab some time on my calendar. It's a pretty easy process. It'll take you less than 3 minutes to do so. And if you heard me on this chat and you're interested in any of my services, I'd love to extend an offer to your audience. Anyone that DMs me the word Blaze, I'll actually give $500 off our LinkedIn course. So if LinkedIn's a platform that you don't currently have visibility on, or you don't have a brand that you've built, and you have a business and you want to learn how to monetize your audience there, our 12-week program takes you from optimizing to monetizing in 12 weeks. I'd love to extend $500 off to any of Joey's audience. So
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. I can personally attest. Jordan helped me set up my back end about a month ago. You
yep,
hopped on, worked a little bit, figured out some calendar systems, set up a new program. I mean, I didn't know how to do it, and you walked me through it. It was so simple. When you showed me how to do it, it's like,
appreciate
oh
that.
my God, how have I been missing this all
Yeah,
this time? And it's like, it's just, there's so many resources out there. And for you, you're just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to setting up these back end systems and really getting your brand out there and
yeah,
helping people find us, so they can work with us. So
100%.
I I love, thank you so much. I love having you on the show.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Always a great chat, motivation, strategy. We could talk for hours on this stuff. So
Yes, sir. Yeah,
thank you so much for coming on the show. And thanks everybody for watching. If you
yeah.
like the show,
Appreciate
make
you guys
sure to
tuning
give
in.
it a heart. Yeah, share it. Uh, until next time, guys, stay blessed and remember to ask yourself, what reality are you choosing to create today? Bye, guys.